Welcome to Magic Tale World, where every story comes alive with wonder. Let's open the book and begin our adventure together.
Once upon a time, in a small, cozy town, lived a little girl named Karen. She was so poor that in the summer she had to go barefoot, and in the winter she wore clumsy wooden shoes that chafed her ankles until they were red and sore. It was a hard life, but Karen had a kind heart and a spirit full of dreams. In the center of the village lived old Mother Shoemaker. One day, using scraps of red cloth, she pieced together a pair of little shoes. They were a bit clumsy, but they were a vibrant, beautiful red, and she gave them to Karen. The little girl was overjoyed. These were the most wonderful shoes she had ever seen. She received them on the very day her mother was buried. They weren't mourning shoes, of course, but she had no others. So she put them on and walked behind the poor coffin. Just then, a grand old carriage rolled by. Inside sat a wealthy old lady. She looked out and felt pity for the little girl walking all alone. She said to the priest, "Give me that little girl, and I will take good care of her." Karen thought it was all because of the red shoes, but the old lady said they were horrid and had them burned. Karen was now dressed in neat, clean clothes. She was taught to read and to sew, and people told her she was pretty. But her mirror told her, "You are much more than pretty. You are beautiful." One day, the queen was traveling through the country with her little daughter, the princess. People, including Karen, flocked to the castle to see them. The little princess, dressed in fine white, stood at a window. She wore no crown, but on her feet were the most magnificent red Morocco leather shoes. They were far, far more beautiful than the ones old Mother Shoemaker had made for Karen. But nothing in the world could compare to those red shoes. Karen was now old enough to be confirmed. She was to have new clothes and new shoes. The rich shoemaker in town measured her little foot. In his shop, in a glass case, were the most splendid shoes of shiny red leather, just like the ones the princess had worn. How they gleamed! The old lady's eyesight was poor, so she didn't notice the color. She paid for the shoes, and Karen took them home. The next morning was Confirmation Sunday. Karen looked at her new black dress, and then she looked at her red shoes, and she put them on. Everyone in the church stared at her feet. As she walked up the aisle to the chancel, it seemed to her that even the old portraits on the walls were shaking their heads at her bright red shoes. When she knelt at the altar, she thought of nothing but them. The old lady eventually heard from everyone that Karen had worn red shoes to her confirmation. She told Karen it was improper, and that from now on, whenever she went to church, she must wear black shoes, even if they were old. But the next Sunday, Karen couldn't resist. She looked at the black shoes, then at the red ones, and she put on the red ones again. The old lady and Karen went to church as usual. At the church door stood an old soldier with a crutch and a long, peculiar beard that was more red than white. He bowed low and asked the old lady if he might wipe the dust from her shoes. Karen, too, put out her little foot. "Oh, what beautiful dancing shoes," said the soldier. "Stay on tight when you dance," he said, and he tapped the soles of each shoe with his hand. The old lady gave the soldier a coin and went into the church with Karen. Again, all eyes were on the red shoes, and Karen couldn't think of anything else. When it was time to go home, as they stepped out of the church, the old soldier said again, "Oh, what beautiful dancing shoes." Karen felt an irresistible urge to dance a few steps, and once she began, her feet wouldn't stop. It was as if the shoes had taken control. She danced around the church corner, unable to help herself. The coachman had to run after her and catch her. He lifted her into the carriage, but her feet kept dancing, kicking the kind old lady. Finally, they managed to pull the shoes off, and her legs found rest. Back home, the red shoes were put away in a cupboard, high up on a shelf. But Karen couldn't stop herself from peeking at them now and then. She missed the feeling, the energy, the strange magic they held. Not long after, the old lady fell very ill. The doctor said she wouldn't recover. She needed constant care, and it was Karen's duty to stay by her side. But there was a grand ball in town that night, and Karen had been invited. She looked at the dying old lady. Then she looked at the red shoes gleaming on the shelf. She thought it wouldn't hurt to just put them on, and so she did. And once they were on, she couldn't resist going to the ball, just for a moment. But as soon as she started to dance, the shoes took over. They danced her out of the ballroom, down the street, and through the city gates, out into the dark woods. She danced and danced through thorns and brambles that tore at her clothes. She danced over heath and field, in rain and sun, by night and by day. It was dreadful. In the morning, she danced past the church, and she saw an angel standing at the door. The angel's face was stern, and in his hand he held a shining sword. "You shall dance," he said. "Dance in your red shoes until you are pale and cold, until your skin shrivels and you are a skeleton. You shall dance from door to door, and where proud, vain children live, you shall knock so that they may hear you and be afraid. Dance, you shall dance." "Mercy," cried Karen. But she did not hear the angel's answer, for the shoes carried her away, through the gate, across the fields, and on, forever dancing. One morning, she danced past a house she knew well. It was the executioner's house. She cried out, "Please, come out! I cannot come in, for I am dancing. Please, I have suffered enough. Cut off my feet." The executioner came out. "You don't know who I am, eh? Ask it. I strike off the heads of wicked people." "Don't strike off my head," said Karen, "for then I could not repent. But strike off my feet with the red shoes." She confessed her sin, and the executioner, with his axe, chopped off her feet. The red shoes with the little feet in them danced away across the fields and into the deep forest. He then carved her a pair of wooden feet and crutches, and taught her a hymn that penitents sing. Karen kissed the hand that had wielded the axe and went away over the heath. She wanted to go to the church, but as she approached, the red shoes danced before her, barring the way. She was filled with sorrow and went to live as a servant in the parsonage. She was humble and worked hard, and everyone was kind to her. When Sunday came, they all went to church, but Karen stayed behind in her little room, her heart full of remorse. As she sat there, the sound of the organ drifted from the church, and she lifted her face to the heavens, tears streaming down her cheeks. At that moment, the sun shone brightly, and the angel she had seen at the church door appeared before her. He was no longer holding a sharp sword, but a beautiful green branch full of roses. He touched the ceiling, and it rose high, and where he touched it, a golden star gleamed. He touched the walls, and they opened wide. Karen saw the organ playing, the old pictures, and the congregation singing. Her heart became so filled with sunshine, peace, and joy that it broke. Her soul flew on a sunbeam to heaven, and there no one asked her about the red shoes. What a powerful story about vanity and redemption. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What part of Karen's journey stood out to you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this classic fairy tale, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more animated stories. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching Magic Tale World. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more magical adventures tomorrow. See you next time!